Also, by the way, if you don't know, this is how you know when you're actually god tier at the casting thing, is we do tri-casts on events. We have ones where it's like, people have like preparation. This guy has to solo cast whole BO5s in the LPL sometimes. It's actually nuts. So, Initialize, welcome to the show, mate.
Pleasure to be here. I definitely did the grind for the LPL this bit. I think we did. It was something stupid like 150 series, which was, I don't know. I forget the numbers, but it was a pretty foul amount of games. So yeah, I know more about the LPL than most at this point.
Right. The question is, though, it's up to you to volunteer what. Are there other regions you would say you watch quite a lot?
I'm pretty up to date on LCK. I know LEC pretty well because I've been casting some of that as well. So I'm up to date for at least up until playoffs and stuff for that one. I watched a little bit of LTA North, but mostly only playoffs, and a bit of LCP as well, because obviously before I was into LPL and stuff, it was LJL things. Though again, a lot of that wasn't necessarily live because it turns out when you're doing LPL, it's quite
There's a million
lot.
games. Yeah, he does more live.
So like my LCK playoffs, I'm super up to date with, and like the big series from the regular season. But like watching regular seasons for a lot of things outside of LEC was quite hard just because timings. But I am pretty up to date, at least as I playoffs from most regions.
I like the way he did the Emily Rand there, Yamato, where I thought he was going to go. Like, I watch LPL, some LCK. I try to watch the LTK. He did that whole thing where it's like, yeah, I'm watching like all the 5 major regions. And you know what? I try to get VCS in here and there, but I feel guilty. I'm not really up to all the VODs. I've heard Oceania like, fucking hell, all right. You can take a day off, fucking hell. No, we're not going to talk about those regions. But anyway, here's what we're going to do. I think since we've talked so much about LEC before, you're the first guest that can actually do the contrast of the LPL and the LCK, the dreaded LV. Because I do think, by the way, the Venn diagram of people who actually watch the LCK and the LPL is only people who work in broadcast. It doesn't seem to be any fans. Like, there's all these nutters who only watch the LPL. Then there's all the LCK fans that just go, Faker will take care of them, so I won't watch it. They're all chokers and shit. And then so we never get the real contrast. We don't have it. We don't have Kelsey Moser here to do it for us. So Initialize, let's start there. First things first, the champions of the LPL. They were the whole split. It was them and TES basically for the regular part of the split. And then we don't talk about TES in the playoffs. That never happened. So
it's finally ended. Yeah. Our suffering of top esports at international events. It's over. I think top esports, the cracks finally fell apart, basically. There were issues through the regular seasons that were showing, and eventually it became too much, and they didn't solve them in playoffs. Whereas Anyone's Legend have just been gradually getting better and better.
They didn't lose a series, mate. So here's the question. Can they win MSI?
They can. I think for me, they are probably coming in as something like on initial level, depending on how things, because obviously patches and stuff changes things out, and your initial read tends to be wrong. There's always some movement. But for me, they're probably coming in as number 3. I think they have to come in behind the 2 LCK squads, though T1's a weird one. But I think they are inevitably going to come in behind Gen.G just on how imperious, how ridiculous that squad looks. And I think most people are going to agree with you there. But Anyone's Legend, they are a Tar-based squad, and we know what Tar-based squads do to the jungle support duo. And Tarzan and Kyle, for my money, are, as a duo, not necessarily as individuals, but as a duo, the hottest ticket jungle support coming into this tournament. They are really, really good across multiple different kinds of drafts, multiple different styles. They are popping the hell off, and that should be very exciting. And that tied in with Tabe's ability to get a team really, really whip crack sharp on early macro moves, early jungle pathing tricks, early skirmishing stuff. It's what they were doing on every other team he's been on. It's turned up here as well. That's really cool. I'm excited to see Shanks get on an international stage. I think that's really cool. I think it's good that Hope's getting another spotlight on him. This is a player who's been criminally underrated in the LPL for years. People forget he won on JDG before the super team roster. People go, oh yeah, that guy was there before Ruler turned up and made things special. He was really good then too. And I can kind of go down that list as well. But I think they will probably be coming in at 3rd place because I think there is... I think Gen.G are just like ridiculously good, particularly in terms of the mechanical brawn from just laning phase alone in solo lanes is going to be very tricky. And I think Flandre, for example, is a wonderful player who I think is quite consistent, quite versatile, and a very good skirmisher and team fighter. But his best showings this year, off of them being on things like the Scion, the Ornn. Yes, he's a good Jace. Yes, he's a good Yorick. I don't want to paint him as a player who can't play carries, but it is not necessarily the thing where you go, you're the best in the world at this. Whereas there is a clip of him on Scion, which you may have seen, like there's me and Alex blowing our heads off that popped off on Reddit a few months ago, with basically literally 90 seconds of Flandre on Sion in a 1v5 walking at the enemy nexus, and they cannot kill him. They have to keep shoving him away until people respawn. It is bloody ridiculous. But this is all going in a very roundabout way to say.
Oh, good.
Anyone's Legend, very, very dominant macro team. Some really cool players. I think people like Shanks in particular, I think have got a real opportunity to sharpen their steel internationally and show exactly how good they can be. And then that jungle support, holy moly, Tarzan finally won something. It is not 8 times in a row. I think what was it, 8 regional finals he's lost, and like, so 7 regional finals and 8 title opportunities in general that he'd lost in overall. And actually, he came in and popped the hell off, and he could well be the best jungler at this tournament. But we've said that about Tarzan before. And the question is whether on this roster, with the really good synergy he's got going on with other players who don't require him to be the carry, where he can play your Sejuanis and Maokais and still be really good, but still have a Zed jungle back pocket pick to nearly get a pentakill before it's stolen away by his AD carry flashing forwards. God damn you hope. Whether that winning in the finals is enough to overcome that curse, that kind of mental block, which a lot of players have before they can just keep doing it over and over again.
By the way, I'm just going to preempt it right now. If you don't know, in battle rap, one thing you do actually to gain an edge over your opponent is if they start saying a line and you can guess what the rhyme is, you predict what the punchline's going to be because it takes some of the power away from it. All you casters out there who think you've got all these clever little fucking puns, listen, I'm waiting for the fucking team fight where you're like, and hope dies last. Yeah, that's right, Dracos. I just ruined the whole fucking thing for you, homie. You're going to have to come up with a new one there. So it's all good. I'm just preempting that one.
Hope Springs Eternal was my one. I
There's
use that one all the time.
So there's a fucking other one. There you go. There you go. It's all good. Right, so here's the question, Yamato. We've obviously glazed Anyone's Legend the whole time. Actually, all these angles, Tarby, Shanks, Tarzan, all the good, Kale. By the way, that's how I actually know when people only watch the LCK. If their assumption is, Carrier must be the best support in the world, we can have that conversation in a minute, mate. Yamato, where you at on Anyone's Legend?
I think Anyone's Legend, like for anyone that doesn't watch LPL, I think the easiest way to describe them would be like, if you're an LEC watcher, like this team would be like Koi on crack cocaine, like just a way better version.
There's the clip.
I see what you mean. You're going jungle support angle on this. I see you, Yamato.
Like, you got your Alvaro Elioyo, you know, it's like what Tarzan and Kale do is like in terms of a duo, I'm with you initialize 100%. It's like in terms of how, like if in terms of how they work together, they drive the whole game. How they pressure jungle, how they take over things, how they just make the game about them, and how everyone ties in. I think it's the easiest to define the roles of each player on this team out of the top 4 teams. It's like Bilibili, T1, Genji. There are elements there where just the star power of the individuals is what the main story is. Of Anyone's Legend, I think, is just in terms of team cohesion and team identity, I think that's where they are the strongest. I think we live in a world where in Fearless, team identity can only get you so far. But then again, Anyone's Legend have been challenged and they have been taken to 5 games. I think their weakest games is when they have to stray from that path. I think in particular, I think there was that one game that stood out where Flandre blind picked Ambessa into Bilibili and Ben just slammed Camille. And then it's like, I watching that and having
Game
watched
4,
it's like, we just know that Ben's going to carry that game. But we come into a tournament where there's no Zeus here. There's only Ben that can really do that, I think. It's like Keen has that in him, but at the same time, you know, it's like, I don't see Keen and Doran as the type of players to like line top laners up to slaughter unless they are like European, right? So on my end, I think Anyone's Legend, the biggest question mark is just how will they, you know, deal with the fact that they are playing, you know, at an international. They're dealing with a very, very new experience. I think the key thing for me always, why LPL has always done so well at the MSIs, is because between the splits, the changes are very minimal. And I expect the meta to be somewhat similar. There's going to be some nuance for sure, but at the same time, it's like Fearless allows you to branch in so many directions, so it's hard to prepare for. But I do think that matters too. It's like we are in a position where always for the LPL, the teams that go to MSI, I do feel like in the context of the meta, they are the strongest always. While when it comes to the World Championship, it's like oh, Weibo Gaming did well in playoffs. It's like, okay, let's see how they do at Worlds. Well, maybe a
Not
bad
again,
example.
yeah.
Maybe a bad example because they managed to
Coin flip
make
their way to
semis and
finals,
finals
yeah.
sometimes. But it's like, I never viewed them as a good team. So it's like, that's why I brought them up.
Yeah,
but it's
good
like,
is one way of putting it. It's not quite the right answer. Yeah.
it's like you always have those LPL teams that just get in there somehow, because the makeup of LPL is that in certain contexts, different teams are going to be the best, and then the World Championship is just so different. But I do think the biggest challenges to overcome is just anyone's legend, very very fresh in terms of the pound per pound experience comparison. If you look at the LCK teams, I think that's the biggest thing to overcome.
I think I agree. I think the one thing I'll say is top lane is an interesting one, because I think it's going to be a sword that cuts both ways. Because the other thing is, I'm for all the Flandre, if he gets on a good Jace matchup, a good Yorick matchup, hell, a good Ambessa match, had a great matchup against Ben where he redeemed himself on that Ambessa in the finals. Like we've seen, actually, I was at the finals. That was Ben playing. He just smashed him on the sign. I apologize. I take it back. I was thinking of Doran's game with Team actually, which is
so obviously
very different.
Yeah,
I know it's all blurry together. This is the problem. But the thing is, Flandre isn't someone I'm necessarily going to expect to consistently come in and drop Doran in lane, which say, obviously Zeus versus Doran's a weird one, where the Father's Day happened and domestic Doran turned up and all those things. But or like Keen, is Flandre the player you expect to take those guys out of the game, as the way a peak Bin could? Not that I think Bin is at peak right now. When we get to BLG, we'll have that conversation, because that's a whole thing in its own right. But Flandre will likely survive lane. He might even get to do it on things like the Sion, the Ornn, and he will have things like the Yorick. He'll have things like the Jason there as well, and that would be great. He might even do very well in those matchups. But then the other side of that, is he actually going to be able to shut down whatever pick that a Doran or a Keen comes out? Are you going to be able to threaten Doran where, say, his levels 1 through 5 aren't always the cleanest? He blows flash a little bit early, going for trades he shouldn't have. Even in that finals versus HLE, actually, if you look back at some of those matchups, there's a few times where Zeus gets a flash in a 1v1 that maybe shouldn't have happened, and that kind of thing. And that could potentially be a worry. But the other side of that is Flandre is likely against some, say, a Doran or a Keen potentially, to be able to get through that lane and then turn up to the skirmishes and team fights where his ability to be at those fights and be very, very proactive in being a really annoying frontliner could be very potent as well.
So I hinted at it earlier. Let's do it. Let's make all the LCK fans really upset, because you have to understand,
Here we go.
T1 is not just popular, but I actually do think one of the few opinions rabid T1 fans have that I agree with is, I do think Kerry is fucking unbelievable. Like he's my go-to support. Like I actually would pick him of all of them, because I also do think he's done things like that no one else did. Like he played the ADC. The joke is he was the carry in the lane in some fucking metas. And I also think if you ever look in their careers, everyone else looks at like, oh, was Zeus choking? How did Faker play? Every tournament they've ever won, Kerrier was unfucking believable. And there's a reason why even people used to say he's like the best player in the world, not even just the best support. But got some news for you boys. This will sound ridiculous because this is another Korean player. And if you watch the LCK, you're like, you mean the guy from Live Sandbox, like the old Prince support? Kale actually is the best support in the LPL. And this has been sort of an epic season for him, right?
Yeah, he has been, for me, the most consistent support in the LPL at a very high level. There's been moments where someone like On has had probably better counter picks, like On still been bringing out things like the Elise and popping off with that. His Nico still good. But the average level of Kyle's been way, way higher. He's got a few picks where, like, you just can't give it to him. Like, Kyle's Rel is a no-go. The Nico is a no-go. Like, he's just really, really good at those. But the thing that is going to make him better is the fact that he and Tarzan together just amplify each other in a very, very scary way across lots of different styles of drafts as well. And I think something that sometimes gets overlooked is how good is your support when the draft archetype changes. If you're no longer playing Kai'Sa with 3 dives, if you're now playing for a carry topside or an early skirmish or a late game team fighting, or actually now you have to play Lulu, or, and you kind of go through these different lists of actually, well, how does the game play out? What are you doing in terms of where you're moving around the map? Kyle's ability to be in the right place at the right time with Tarzan to make the next step of the grand anyone's legend plan play out is really, really scary. And while I would argue, I think probably Kerrier is going to be mechanically slightly better than Kyle, and Kyle is certainly a little less experienced for obvious reasons. Kyle is a very dangerous player who has been doing it all year long against some of the very best in the world in LPL as well, where like yes, the precision has gone down with Fearless, but the bloodbaths have been there, and you have to be ready to go. And anyone's Legend have navigated that more consistently than anyone else in the LPL now across ungodly amounts of games.
Yamato, dare you blaspheme and put him in the same category as Lord Carrier?
I think in terms of performance, I think there's some peaks at Carrier that just makes him untouchable. Like even that series against How Alive, some of the shit he did is just bonkers. Like that Poppy game
Nico
is just
play.
insanity.
Yeah.
Nico, like his Rakan game as well. It's just the highlight reel of Carrier is something that just I think you can't really touch. I think still jungle support duo. I think Tarzan. If that's the only metric, duo. Tarzan and Kale, I think they are much better than Owner and Carrier. Even though I think in this split, more so than ever in the history of this T1 roster, I think Carrier and Owner are actually working together. It's like we actually see him play Rel, Leona, and it actually makes sense because with these champions, you need to connect with your jungler and figure out and take the space. Otherwise, in a lot of cases, you're going to look like an Inter. That's why Carrier always skewed himself to mobile supports because Owner wants to farm. But I always make that same inference that Mata has had, the impact on these two guys to actually make them work together. But there is a lot of work to be done before you can put yourself in that level. I feel like the best comparison I could give to anybody that doesn't watch LPL is like Tarzan and Kael is as basically Delight and Peanut if Peanut was mechanically insane. And that's like a very, very fucking big props because that's what
from
it
a
is.
time machine if we brought him back from the old days.
Yeah, fucking,
Yeah, I mean,
fucking
like,
2016 or some shit, you know?
And it's not like Peanut has been, inverted commas, bad mechanically. He's been inconsistent mechanically. Like sometimes you go, damn, that was a great Poppy game. And you go, otherwise, well, what the hell was that? Whereas
yeah,
actually,
then you see him locking like a Lillian though. And the difference is,
exactly.
There's something different about theirs, you know. There's something different about theirs.
So if you whereas then you look at Hope and Kyle, and again, not Hope and Kyle, that's perhaps a conversation to have as well, but like Kyle and Tarzan, and you go, okay, here are some of the duos they were running in finals. They went Pantheon Nautilus pit combo, roam the map, be absolutely deadly, be a really, really dangerous pit combo. You land that first bit of CC, you get everything rolling that way. It's all about you in the early game getting things rolling. Game 2, they are running Wukong Milio, very different game. Actually, a bit more defensive. You need to come up and play for a bit later than Milio. You want to get Hope on the Sivir to a good point, but you are playing a little bit more for the counter engage, for the secondary punch. And then last game, it's bloody Zed and Renata, where the two of them, I have not seen a jungle support duo performance like that game 3 in a very long time. They really did do absolutely everything under God's green earth to get things rolling. Like Tarzan was playing to the wire with the bailout to get him back out to nearly get pentakills. He was getting quadra-kills in lanes off ridiculous shadow switches. And you're going, okay, you've just played 3 vastly different champions and 3 vastly different duos and 3 vastly different drafts and being elite level on all of them. And that flexibility is what I think gives them a lot of power. Not, of course, that Carrier and Owner don't have that, at least on an individual level. But I would say, as I said, I think there is that synergy level between these two that is a bit higher. Even if I'd say particularly for Carrier v Kyle, I think Carrier is probably a higher level on a higher number of supports mechanically on average. And I think that's, Kyle may prove me wrong yet. I think this guy's only been on the up and up. He's been getting better and better across the year. That I could and will happily be proved wrong on that front, but we'll see.
Bro, I love all of that came after you saying Peanut mechanically was good.
Okay, inconsistent.
Nah, my man, Peanut sucks mechanically, man. Come on now.
He means it like the LCK equivalent of where people would go, Jankos is washed. It's like he could still occasionally pull up like a mechanical champion or do a big play, though. It's not like he's total trash and he's only a brain in a jar. Like he does have hands. The difference is, obviously, he can't match Canyon. He can't match Tarzan. He can't match the Kanavi. Yeah, he's not on that level. Let's spin it, though. You brought it up already, so it's an obvious transition, right? I understand why they gave Kanavi the MVP of the split. Again, TS was very, very good. Plus, they did directly beat anyone's legend. And so it was one of those things where if you ever watch Kanavi's game, again, I can tell who actually watches the LPL. He is unbelievably good in the LPL, especially in regular seasons. But I tell you what, if you were to do an MVP that was regular season and playoffs, I would take Tarzan. I am a Tarzan glazer, but listen, now's the time to fucking come out the closet on that one, isn't it? Because this is the best time. Those Z games in the final, if no one and saw them. Listen, I thought Canyon's Zed was good before. This was fucking unbelievable. And that is like literally, like he said there, it wasn't like some sort of weird, like you can't catch me. It's like he was killing the motherfuckers. It was actually unreal. And obviously, if you are a Tarzan believer, look, everyone else is going to go, he's going to choke again, whatever. But in the movie, obviously, when you finally win the final is when you sort of break the curse, isn't it? And now you come into this world where he actually has a team. I'll give him this as well. His team's style of play is very consistent and he's going to get his chances. So what do you think of Tarzan right now and his chances in this tournament, initialize?
If you're going to want an equivalent in terms of like the narratives, the storylines behind it, it is someone like maybe even someone like a Thorin, right? Where you go, domestic Tarzan is not international Tarzan. And Tarzan has sequentially messed up at international tournaments. Look at the LNG quarterfinals in 23. It was awful. Last year, actually in 2024, I actually think he had a pretty good tournament. I don't think it was his fault. I think he played fine. He just wasn't maybe like the reason they won. But if you are absolutely reliant on your jungler to be your sole win condition, it's bloody hard at international events. I know you were having that conversation with Zabatine in the last section. So actually, being a carry jungler is your only way to play the game is a very challenging way to play. All of this is to say, if Tarzan comes in on the strength of form he has just been showing, with the versatility of playstyle he's been showing, with Tabe backing him up, with Kyle backing him up, to give him that kind of structure and playing with his own actual really clever early pathing strategies, I think Tarzan could well be in with a shout of tournament MVP if things go well for anyone's legend. If anyone's legend were going to win this tournament, Tarzan is MVP. I think that's
by the way,
the way things goes.
Coming first place in the tournament with Gen G, this unbeatable team, and Canyon, that would be a pretty fucking crazy way to turn the whole narrative around real fast. Yeah.
I think also the like if I go against the narrative of like the Tarzan choke, it's like he's never gone into a tournament where it's clear like that his team is not flawed in any shape or form. It's like in the end he hasn't been to that many internationals, like looking at how long he's been playing, but it's like even looking at that Griffin run that they did, I like he actually played good that tournament. Like in the end, like they lost to IG, right? And I think a big problem of that was it's like in the end, it's like doing that and losing because Sword is playing the way he does, and Chovy is trying to compensate by playing tanks mid. It's like I thought they had a pretty solid tournament. The LNG one, it's like in the end they lost against a T1 that was completely fucking on fire, with also a team that was inherently flawed, like with hang on support and so forth. So it's like, if I want to be very, very nice about what his international performances have been, I think this is the one time where he comes into the tournament and, okay, he's the best team coming out of the LPL. And I think that's super, super massive. So on that front, I think I believe in Tarzan. I believe in Tarzan. But we've said it so many times in this show already. The junglers here are crazy. It's demonic. It's crazy what the list of junglers are.
It's strong. And I think then you end up in this issue. It's like, okay, so Tarzan's being matched. Jungle support's being matched. There's a lot of other very good jungle support duos. And even if you've got like a 5% advantage, say, if that, like Owner and Kerry are on crazy form and you're having a really big knife fight between these two and they're all over the place making crazy plays, you don't get that advantage. Well, what's happening then in your lanes? Hope is actually, I think he's been criminally underrated for a while. I think the most consistent AD carry in the LPL this split. It's partly why they're here. People like Elk were very up and down, and Elk was asked to do a lot of carrying without having his solo lanes be as dominant. And that's not a place Elk has been very comfortable in before, and it showed a little bit, even if I think he had a better split than perhaps I gave him credit for at points. But you've got Hope. Okay, are you great to elite? You're looking at Shanks, new but great, potentially going to be elite consisting over level. Flandre, great to elite. But are these three players all-time greats? And I don't know about that as yet. We'll see. I mean, I think Shanks he's a wonderful player, and I think it's a wonderful chance for him to shine. Flandre's won Worlds before. Clearly, he's got something in him. And Hope, again, you're an LPL champion. That's never easy to do. But you're also going up against Chovy on possibly the best form of any player ever. You're going up against Keen, up there as possibly the best top laner of all time. Yes, there's contest. Your Bins, your Zeus, your Marin Smeb, whatever you want to look at. But, the shine. But is Flandre in that conversation? Hope, again, you're going up against the likes of Gumayusi on rare form, looking to prove himself after all of this kind of debacle of where he's going to be. Ruler, and then you're going down the list and going, oh my God, are you at all-time top 5 level potentially for some of these players? And I don't know whether that's going to be true. And I think, well, the answer is, to be more obvious, no, not right now. Could they be after this tournament? We'll see in a
That's
year.
where I want to go
But yeah.
next, because I think the player, aside from Tarzan in this team, who has the most to gain if he goes against Faker, Chovy, it's Shanks. If people don't know, again, if you don't watch the LPL, you're now just going to go, Mad Libs, let me get out my old TES thing. I've heard about this. There was a guy called Cream, right? And he was really tight too. And then he was going to like come and do all this damage too. And then he did nothing, didn't he? He was even looking bad against fucking APA. Shanks is no fucking Cream. Like, Cream was even that bizarre thing where he had the weird specialist angle from playing the fucking Melee champions. If you don't know, he got his fame playing in that most bizarre OMG team of all time that was just, I don't even fucking understand what the play style that was. That was just some LPL shit. I never really
understood. Melee synergy.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was ridiculous.
The difference is Shanks is not some like one-dimensional player. This guy actually plays everything, mate. Like, and quite frankly, he was very impressive throughout this whole split. And remember, LPL, you can't hide your mid lane. You don't just. It's very rare. It's why even when you go one, I never took it away from him. You're not a bomb if you win the LPL 3 times, mate. So if you can win the LPL, and by the way, Knight is still no joke. He's got those motherfucking hands. He waits at the top of the dojo, ready to slay anyone who faces him in a final. This guy just beat him. So give me some thoughts initialized. Shanks, you could, if he was to even take some games off someone like Chovy, I feel like his stock can rise massively.
Oh, hugely. And again, I was on the Cream hype train until he disappointed me. I was part of the lactose tolerance club. We had a whole thing. We had graphics planned. It was, he just never quite did it outside of Yone, did he? And again, I don't think he was even that bad on top esports. Just was he the best mid laner in the league? Absolutely
his name's
not.
even motherfucking Cream. Every caster's waiting to beat, and he rises to the top. You didn't even do it, you bomb. You went sour and curdled. Whatever. I
did do soured. I did do curdled, but I had a lot of games to go through. At this point, it was going to get there. So, credit where it's due.
Yeah.
But for Shanks, this is a player, unless you were like a massive LPL kind of diehard, you will not have heard of because he was on Team WE for such a long time. He's been there from 2020. He finally moved to Anyone's Legend in 2023, and that roster took a while to really get online. For the longest time, AL were nicknamed Awesome Logo because they had a really cool logo and a team that couldn't quite do it.
Which, by the way, detail, I invented this. If you look at their logo,
was that you?
I invented the idea that the logo looks like someone's cooking a panda in a wok. You can't unsee it now, mate. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just some bollocks, but you can't unsee it now. I'll tell you that. I made that.
It's because they're cooking in draft. That's what they're doing. They've been so consistent. Carb is there, It's exactly what it is.
And it's a wok, delicious Chinese food. Lovely.
Yeah, I'm not saying Flandre also plays the panda skin on Yorick all the time. So it's the one with like the Meow Kai.
See?
Not Meow Kai, the Meowrick
Synergy.
one. It's all
We're
there.
synergizing right now. I might kick you out and have you.
But obviously, like you had the Ale Croco top side that got switched out this year for Flandre and for Tarzan, which was obviously massive changes. And Ale and Croco, they were looking so good last year and then didn't make it in play. And you're looking back to like 23, and it was like Cube and Han. I was like, and Shanks is trying. My God, is he trying? And it just that top side wasn't there. And for the longest time, this guy has been so close but so far in the playoffs that they couldn't make the gauntlet run because the thing basically is to make it to an international event is a Herculean effort in the LPL. Unless you top out top 2, really, your run is monstrous. I think there is something like 8 or 9 best of 5s you often have to do, where you have to go all the way through all the other teams who are trying to do the exact same thing as you, and you've got players like Scout and Rookie and Knight and Shanks, and and you're going down this list, and yes, it's the players you will have heard of. And then there's the players who you might have seen at one international event and love to make their second. And you've got the players who are really good and deserve international, but aren't quite there yet. And making an international in the LPL is such a nightmare. And a lot of players just give up before they get there, or the roster falls apart before they get there. They got that one bit that doesn't quite pay off in playoffs and they don't get there. Or Weibo decides in their infinite wisdom and madness to coin flip their way through to glorious victory again, because Xiaohu is just the GOAT. What can I say? And Shanks has been one of these players who, for those who've watched the LPL, he's been a great player for a very long time without the teammates around him to really get there consistently. Finally this year, we thought it was happening, and they didn't make it to first stand. You're going, oh my God, it's happening again. And actually, they did do it this time around, and they did it in their style, confidently, consistently, with Shanks looking really fucking good. He's going to be a great player. I said that about Cream, though, so you never know. But I think he's really good, and he's a lot more well-rounded than Cream ever was. He's got another task ahead of him now, of course, because actually you have got Chovy on crazy form. Faker maybe less so, but it's Faker, right? And he's still incredibly clutch. He's still a fantastic playmaker. And until T1 are double tapped in the head, I will never count them out of an international event because they've done it too many times before at this point. But you kind of go down this list. And as a result, guys, you should be excited for him. Things like his LeBlanc, fantastic. Things like his Yone, fantastic. He is a very well-rounded player who you can ask him to play pretty much anything and he'll be able to do it. And, you know, as a Brit, anyone with the name Shanks, I've got immediate affinity for, you know. I spent a long time in London, you know, you got that element.
Top boy. All right, yeah, okay. These are on the ends. I see how it goes. All right. Right, okay, Yamato, where are you at on this? Are you scared? It's rookie mid laner from China coming to an international tournament. This can't go wrong. You know, what do you think? Is it going to work out?
The fucked up thing, well, it's a good thing, right? But every MSI, you just have the usual suspect pulling up. It's Knight, Chovy, Faker, even Caps. Like, these guys have so much experience.
Yeah, there's your deadly horseman.
Like, they have so much experience. These are the type of guys, it's like, they know all the little neat tricks, you know. They know how to adapt you know, like when the wind blows in one direction, you know, they know how to go with the flow. And that's something that you need to master, especially at MSI when there's such a tight turnaround. It's like you don't get to, like, even though it's double elimination, the time you have to bounce back is very, very limited. It's like you have, like we mentioned Top Esports taking Genji to 5 games earlier, but they didn't bounce back fuck all. They got smacked around by, of course, G2.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
They are cooked by G2, and I think this is the main thing. You know, this is the main challenge. It's like you travel abroad, even though it's like LPL is very brutal in terms of like the logistics, because teams travel around, they have to play from other places, they sleep in hotels and so forth. It's brutal in that sense. It's like dealing with new logistics and being outside of your comfort zone. Some players thrive in that, some players don't. And I think the main challenge is just that level of experience that they bring. Because in the end, it's like if you make a tier list, if you only look at gameplay throughout the split, I think anyone's legend, anyone that watched LPL should be a clear second if you just look at gameplay, in my opinion. But if you think about all these other things, the intangibles that usually are hard to measure, but in the context of some of these players and some of these teams is very easy to measure. And that's super scary.
By the way, I just want to put this out there. Since you give the comparison that anyone's legend jungle support duo, that's like MCoy on crack cocaine. I don't want the old Koi staff to get any really fucked up ideas. I know we're doing everything to win, but that's too far. You know what I mean?
Oh, boy.
Anyway, let's flip over. Let's talk about BLG. Yeah. So here's the problem I have, okay, which is even though the same people who tell us when they don't watch the LPL, don't just go off that, you know, international, you never know what happens to people there. I think everyone has written BLG off. They're just going like, oh, they didn't win the split. They lost twice to anyone's legend. Bin actually looks kind of whack. It's probably the worst split he's had in fucking years. There's all these reasons to hate on them. Beishwan has been good for their team, but he's not a top jungler. Spoiler, he was never in any jungle conversations to be fucking a top player to be the MVP. The other junglers we're talking about were the MVP candidates. So with all that said, I do feel like an obvious angle to set up here initialize is when you, as you said, if you have, I think Knight was fine actually in general, he was up and down. I think when you have a name like Bin though, and you have a bunch of weeks off and all the other players coming in, I don't think they're going to play him like he's in bad form, mate. And also, maybe he didn't get the memo. I mean, I saw his interview, mate. He's basically saying like that, you know, anyone's engine aren't even the champions for beating him. Like, I think Bin has that delusional, like, you know, irrational self-confidence. Do you think BLG can be some sort of a dark horse for this tournament?
So, I think they can be, but it depends what BLG we get, because they've had a really weird split. And we'll get into this story because it's one of those ones that in typical LPL fashion has all the popcorn drama you could ask for. But I will start up with this one. Anybody who just watched the finals of LPL is going to think that Knight was not good. He was, for me, the MVP of the split. Like, legitimately. Myself and Nightmare and a few of the other LPL English guys as well were in this place position as well, because he was doing the Lord's work trying to get a BLG squad that was not very good at points over the finish line. And he was still probably the best mechanical mid laner in the damn league. He was still absolutely terrifying. Now, you're going to go back and you're going to watch the one game they won in finals and he got the MVP on Silas, and you watch him watch 8 Ornults in a row and you go, what the hell was happening? And you're going to get Kira come in and go, I watched the pro view and he didn't get the understanding of how Ornn versus Silas model is different. He mind gamed himself out of it. It wasn't a good finals from Knight. But actually, on the whole, the split and the playoffs, he was really, really good. Credit, actually, to Shanks in that upper bracket finals, which was a lot closer. That was a 5-game series, and it's probably the better one to get a vibe on where BLG versus anyone's legend kind of leveled out at. But Shanks actually did stand toe-to-toe with Knight in a laning phase, which wasn't always that easy, even if actually, Knight was still coming out with a bit of CS. The team fighting stuff was still very good. There was a Cassiopeia camping. All those things were really cool. But Knight was still very, very dangerous. The BLG have become a much more spiky team. And by that, I mean their strengths are still very strong, but their weaknesses are a lot more glaring and a lot more problematic. They're a lot more brittle as a team. And basically, the story went like this. In winter, they came in with a sort of unchanged roster. Shun had left because of poaching allegations and some other stuff in the background that meant that he burned a load of bridges with the organization. He left the squad and went to JDG. And it was all a whole mess that was all over Weibo and all the other social medias. And they kept Wei, who had been a kind of sub for Shun across worlds and getting them 2 worlds last year when Shun was kind of in a bit of a weird spot and they went up and down a lot. And Wei was there and he was still pretty good, but he was kind of a gremlin in the jungle. You go in and you'd start weird things in the jungle by being a menace on things like Lee Sin and Maokai and all these champions that get into the jungle and do weird things with pathing. And it just wasn't working in winter. Hell, they lost to Bejuan and Thunder Talk Gaming in Winter Split in a best of 5. And I'm here, don't get me wrong. I'm a massive Thunder Talk Gaming fan. 1xN Ishin, their AD carry, is one of my LDL new hopes. I love that guy dearly. I have been holding on this banner for 4 odd years, watching him go through Academy and casting him to like 40 people on my little LDL co-stream from back in the day. I'm all there for that squad, and I love how plucky they are. But they should never have been beating BLG.
if you got
Yeah, but exactly. But you're not supposed to beat BLG. Yeah, exactly. They got this world fighting squads who are like a team fight away from winning worlds to bombing out into Winter Split, coming into Spring Split, and it's looking dire. They cannot win a game. It's all over the place. Their coach is substituted on stage. He is not.
By the way, I want a quick sidebar. Do you think the conspiracy was they really were going to fire him early and they had to just make it seem like, let's do it more professionally, and then, but like they reeled it back in, basically. Right.
I completely agree. I think there've been a lot of rumors in the background that things weren't working with the coach staff and the players. And again, we've seen people like Ben and a number of these other BLG players be very outspoken, very vocal, have a bit of ego to them, understandably so perhaps, but it's not working right now. The synergy has been off for a long time. And so Maokai is effectively fired on stage. He leaves and he's there for a couple more weeks as backroom stuff, and then he's let go officially. But for all intents and purposes, that is the moment he goes. At which point they also buy out Bejuan from Thunder Talk Gaming to come in and try and fix the team. And Bejuan, how do I explain Bejuan? On TT, he was one of their star players. When they were winning, it was off Bejuan being really good, particularly on Sejuani and Lilia. Playmakers where he could be the tip of the spear that makes things happen, be that from farming and getting loads of big sleeps off, or just being Sejuani and doing what Sejuani does in terms of getting that we're going on this person. And he and 1xN, Ishin, depending on whether you want to use the Chinese pronunciation of the letter number combo, were your players who went, this is why this team is ever going to win games. And he's brought out and comes across, and there's this interview where basically Bejuan says, I've come to BLG, and my job is to basically get everybody on the same page, throw myself into Valhalla to get everybody doing the same thing at the same time. And whatever I do for myself doesn't matter, because that's not why I'm here. I'm just here to get everybody doing the same thing, because it wasn't happening. Everybody was pulling in the wrong directions, different directions, it was all falling apart. And so we kind of had this idea of Bejuan, the Band-Aid, not Bejuan the player. Because we've not really seen Bejuan as a player in the squad. He's never going to get the resources or the agency or any of the other things.
It's just to service the lanes, mate.
Yeah, he you know that scene in Rick and Morty where it is sort of along the lines of, what is my purpose? Your purpose is dying for the glory of your laners. And he goes, oh my God, no, that's what it is. And all of the post-game thing where Ben's bitching about like, oh my God, well, I wouldn't have died if my jungler had warded for me. It's like, mate, you had a ward in inventory, just put your ward fucking down. And you're like, all these kinds of things where like he is there to basically say, we go now on this player, and everybody joins him. And it worked. It did. They went on a 6-win streak, and they got together, and finally, BLG looked like BLG again. It has made them a lot more brittle, because it's been a long winding up and down to explain how they got here in the first place. But their whole thing right now is, if they can snowball early game, if they can play through winning lanes, BLG are utterly terrifying. All of those old things you remember from them getting early leads, using their hands to just be fantastic and having On really pop off on some of his cooler picks. Like he's still playing Elise and getting lots of gold, actually. They're feeding On gold as a support on a lot of these enchanters and kind of assassin support picks with like heralds and plates and stuff to get him towards things like rocket belts and Zonyas and stuff. That's quite cool. But they are basically they're trying to get all of these early snowball again, early skirmishes to go. If they get that first early skirmish, that first early play rolling, BLG is back, baby. It all looks good. And then the mid game rolls around. You hit about 15 to 20 minutes. And they are going to, invariably, in the enemy jungle, somewhere by blue buff, decide to see someone on their screen and go, right, we're having him. And they will dive on in, and they'll away a crazy team fight. You're going, what on earth are you doing? And they will overforce at that point. And then things get awkward. And again, like consistency in terms of when are we fighting? When are we not? Gets a bit more awkward, especially if they're not far enough ahead that it just doesn't matter because they win by just having a wallet diff. The other side of that as well is, well, what happens if they don't get the early snowball? Elkanon go for the knife fight bot, which they do all the time, and then lose it. Or Knight is isolated, having a bad time. Or Bin right now in general has not been playing actually that well. He's still good. He's still smashing mid-table tops, but against elite level opponents, he is losing more than he should be, especially when he was like right up there in conversation for best top laner in the world. He is not that now by a long, long margin. But the thing is, like, actually, we've seen a lot of tower dives where they try to dive for 4 minutes and fail every single one of them and give up 4 kills to a bot lane. Or Bim will die in a solo kill or be down 20 CS in a matchup he shouldn't be. Or, you know, you kind of go down this list and you go, and then they don't look so good. Last one on this one as well, as we're kind of talking about the fragility here. They are incredibly reliant on Knight being able to get out of his lane and do things. And similarly to Elk as well, basically because their solo lanes in general have not been consistently dominant. And when they haven't been, it looks a lot worse. Go watch that finals. They were a complete mess. And their macro sense isn't very good, especially from behind. It is very, very poor. They don't do due diligence around objective setups. They don't do good warding patterns. They are still, when goes going wrong, pulling in different directions. And it's very obvious that they aren't as clean at that. If anyone has faster response timers than more global, better teleport angles, they will get punished by that invariably at some point in the game. And yet, they are still mechanically very scary. They've still got some of the best players in the league. They still snowball better than nearly anybody out there if they get that snowball rolling in the first place. And even from behind, they've got your Knights and your Elks and your Bins from the right game states where they can still come in and win the game. It just is nowhere near as consistent as it once was. And their drafting sucks. The last point, it does. It's not good drafting. The coaching's been fired. They don't know how, they have not integrated base run yet. They're not a very well-rounded team and what drafts they can pull out. The drafts still are not great, and they can't get away with just being better laners and winning all the lanes and that being enough to win the game despite the comps not working. There's the BLG round.
Yamato, here's a League of Legends dad joke. So I agree with him. BLG, kind of a spiky team. Dangerous when they get on a roll. Other times, they're just okay. That's a Ramos joke. People don't.
Not
Not
bad.
Not bad. Actually ties
Could have gone for on and off. You know, the support there gets it all the time, you know.
Yamato, what do you think of BLG coming into MSI? He did the breakdown them in the LPL. What about MSI? What are your expectations? Are they got to say hidden power level? Do you think they're going to shit the bed? What do you think?
I think the main thing for me is if they're in games or in game states where the correct decision is to fight, I do think that they can compete with the absolute best. My issue is when it isn't. When it isn't in the in-between, whether it's farming on side or whether it's like waiting for certain item timers or just waiting. It's like, oh, the enemy is overcommitting to this Drake position. We can take mid turret, push top for free, and take a tier 2 and just win the game because we're going to be 3k gold ahead. It's like, no, they're just going to walk into that Drake space and face check a Braum and a Maokai and just like lose the game. And I think that's just the biggest issue. I feel like they are a much worse version of what they were coming into the previous MSI, because when they came into MSI that year, they were just a team that was insanely good at snowballing through bottom side. And all of their games were basically spearheaded by that. It's like, there were some draft scenarios you saw in the regular splits, like, oh, Elk and On are playing fucking Kalista Renata. They're going to win this game in 27 minutes, no problem. I'm going Billy win under time, no problem. We're cashing this in, you know, there's no problem. And now Like they come in with a similar kind of identity. I'm with you, initialize. Like it's all like early game. If they can snowball and they can get away with taking any fight possible, I think that they are so damn insane. I think on the topic of Bin, my view on Bin is there are still games where he plays that are like insanely masterful.
Camille game, yeah.
There's just my main issue with Bin for such a long time is that he has been forcing champions he shouldn't be playing. I don't understand. Like, why the hell is he playing? Like his Rumble win ratio might be decent, but I see his Rumble for what it is. He's not a good Rumble. No. He's not a good Ambessa either. But if he for some reason gets a first pick Gwen because the enemy doesn't decide to like ban it, I'm going to think that he's going to carry the game, which is very, very often true. I think it's like 5-0 on Gwen. Otherwise, the game is just permabanned, even in the context of 5 Fearless. And I think if in some weird world, if they can find draft identities that sets up Bin for that, he's the only top laner at this tournament that can play that carry style at that level. But to be fair, there's only really 2 top laners in the world that I would trust at the highest level to do that, and that is like an informed Zeus and an informed Bin. And if they want to get weird and they want like they can potentially be a dark horse, I think it is through that. Is if they can find ways to put Bin into his comfort again. But there are other players that are willing to lock in Jax, and he just isn't. It's like
which is wild, because it's not like Bin is a bad Jax player. It's just wild. I will say, like, I do think, like, if you would talk to me about Bin's Ambessa, say 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I would have agreed with you. I do think towards the latter half of this split, it got a lot better. In finals, yeah. But even so, I do think it did get a lot better, but he had to put in so much time to get there. And that has been issues. I don't think Bin's pickup rate of champions has been very good this year at all. And that has been a problem because, again, you are expecting a player who, you know, the level that we have seen him at is best in the world. He is not best in the world, at least consistently right now. And I think just in general, not. And that has been a pain point for BLG. I mean, like, he's also been, like, very salty in general. Like, I don't know whether you saw his post-match comments after the finals, where he was like, you don't count as a champion because you haven't got this one. It's like, and I, you know, on one hand, I appreciate the pettiness, that kind of drive. On the other hand, like, at some point, there's got to be a little bit of self-reflection. Like, my guy, there are things that you are doing in game right now that aren't correct, and there are steps that are being skipped by BLG that are not correct. Like, the dragon point you made out. The other side of it is like when they do try to cross map, they then skip 3 steps. They haven't shoved out waves on the other side. They haven't put the water, and they go for this dive, and it takes too long, and they get counterpunched by a Talia coming in, and you go, why the hell did this dive not work? It's like, well, you know, this team.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.